All right, so currently I'm in my project folder, and as usual, let me start the live server. Let me push this here, and then great. So this is just what we did the other day. I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything to it. And then before we jump on to making it responsive, there are a few more things which I want us to do, and the focus of that one is to help us to see how we could use some of the solo classes, all right? And what we want to achieve, when we were doing CSS, we did CSS selectors, all right? And we have selecting by classes, but then there are also hierarchical selections whereby we use what we call combinator, the sibling combinator, all right? So now, let me go back into my CSS. We're going to spend quite some time on it, but at least we're going to learn and it's worth it. So let me go back to my gallery section. Where is gallery above? All right, so I have gallery here, all right? And then when I hover on an image, the image zooms in. So it increases. We add a transform of scale. I think we did 1.1, right? So let's say we want to do something like when we hover over this image, all the sibling images should, as this one becomes big, those ones should become small, and maybe they should blur out a little bit. All right. So where is gallery item, right? So when I can, what I could say is dot gallery item. When it is hovered, then I want to select its siblings. All right, so not that particular item. So what I can do is I can use the sibling combinator, which is the tilde. Is it a tilde or tilde? I can't really remember the actual name for it, but it's tilde or something like that. And when you press shift and then the backtick key, I think on your keyboard it comes before the one on the number row keys, right? So we have the sibling combinator. Then I could say that what the gallery item. Then I would say I want to give it a transform of a scale, then make it a 0. 0.9 instead. All right. So let's see what happens. And when I hover over this, you realize that the two images that are towards its left, or any siblings that come after it, what happens to them? They become what? They become small, all right, but not the ones that are before it. And that is what this combinator does. We call it the general sibling combinator. And it selects all siblings of this particular item, all right, that come after it. And so it's not always the best, or it's not going to give us the desired result, especially in this instance, because when this is hovered, only this is affected. When the lion is hovered, the giraffe and then the crocodile are affected, not the elephant, not the snake, not the wolf, not the tiger. Then there is another sibling combinator, which is the plus. I just want to show you what they do, the plus sibling combinator. And what that does is it selects the one that is just adjacent to it, or we call it the adjacent. So the very next one beside it is going to be styled, all right? So for now, there is no way to directly select a sibling which is going to affect all of them, all right? So we are going to do something. We are going to use our has pseudo elements, pseudo classes, and then the not pseudo classes. We're going to combine them and see what we could do. So first of all, what we're going to do is what? Let's go to the parent. Are you getting it? Because when you are on the parent, you can style a child by the state of a parent. So you could say that gallery items, all right? When the gallery items is hovered, then the child, which is the gallery item, we could just give it a display, sorry, a display of what? None, all right? So the moment I hover, you realize that it's getting missing. All right, or let me just give it a different. Let me give it a, let's say, uh, filter, and then blur, and I'll say 100 pixels. All right. So the moment I enter the parent section, all its children that are gallery items become what? They become blurry. All right. So by virtue of this particular feature, we can say that what? Gallery items, which is the parent, all right, then we bring the has pseudo class. Are you getting it? So if this gallery item has a child called what? Gallery item, and that particular child is hovered, then let me do this. Let me do this. When we have gallery items, then let's tell the child gallery item. All right, and then let's say transform scale 0.9. All right, then let's give it a filter and say blur, and let's make it 10 pixels. All right, and then all of them are this blurry. All right, and that means we are styling them directly, but we want the blurry to happen only when the parent is hovered. So now let me now add a pseudo class and say hover. All right, and then only when, sorry, oh, I added something over here. Now it's not happening, but only when I hover over the parent, and since all the children are within the parent, it's gonna affect it as well. Only when the mouse enters the parent, then what? The children are gonna become blurry. All right, the properties which we have defined is gonna apply to them. All right, but then what we want to do is what? We want the focus to be on what? A child. Each of these cards, each of these images, and not the parent itself, and there is no way to directly select that. So what we can do is say that has when this parent has what? A child gallery item, when this parent has a child gallery item, then all of them should be hovered. And this parent actually has a child gallery item, so it's happening to it. All right. Then we could just continue and say only when that child gallery item is hovered. Are you getting it? So now I am in my parent, and let me go through this white space. You realize nothing is happening. But the moment I move on to one of these images, you realize that what is happening to them. I get them. So now the hover focus is on what? The child item, and not the what do you call it? The parent. Are you getting it? Then what we want to do is that when we hover on the image, all the other images should what? Should have this scale of 0.9 and blurry effect, and not the image itself. So we can use another pseudo class called what? The not pseudo class. So this is the target. This is the target element. This is the element that is receiving the styling. So we can now say what? Not pseudo a class. Are you getting it? Then we can specify another property. So we can say not hover. Are you getting it? So now what we are doing is that if this gallery item has a child which is what? Gallery items has a child which is gallery item, and that child is hovered, then let's tell a gallery item or a gallery item that is not hovered. So when I hover over this, let's see what is happening. When I hover over this, you realize that it pops up and it's clear, just like we have over here. The saturate should go to 100%, and then we are transforming it to a scale of 1.1. So that is what is happening to the lion. And then all the other gallery items which are not hovered, realize the combination we are using over here, this should now apply to them. So when this is hovered, then the other ones which are not having the hover effect, they should what? Become smaller, and then they should what? Blur out. So this is a typical way by which we can use the has and then the not pseudo classes, and I believe this is very simple and clear to you. If you don't understand it, kindly draw my attention so that if there is any explanation, I do it real quick and we can go on to making our website responsive. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make mine blurry. Let me just do it 5 pixels. Let me see. I think it's too blurry. Let me make it 2 pixels. All right, I think let me make it three. Three should be fine. All right, so you can still see that it's a lion, but great. Then I can click on this and then have my image. So we did this, and this is beautiful. So with a combination of all these properties, all these features and CSS, you can make really, really cool web pages. All right. So let me take this out because we don't need it anymore. Today we have added some new styling to our gallery image. All right. Then I was also saying there was another thing I wanted us to look at, and that was let me just leave this as this. All right, and then also you remember that I did my container. I gave it a border pixel of a border of 1 pixel solid red, and it was just to guide me. So after you're done with your website, make sure that you take that out because I was just using it for debugging purposes. I know where my container is starting from, and so this is how the web page is actually supposed to look, and not this way. All right, and I also did mention that we are going to be including a blog section between the contact section and then the footer because we can't have these two backgrounds showing. It doesn't really look good. So let me just jump onto that right away, real quick, and then we can move on to making everything responsive. Contact, and then I have footer, so I can now say blog section. All right, so now gonna have a section dot blog section, right? And I believe that is the format I've been using contact section for any inquiry. This is a spelling error. Blog, right, so I have contact section, then blog section. So I could now give it an ID of what blog. Then remember that we did something to our footer, sorry, our header, right? So I can now come back and add one more element and then call that what blog. So I'm now using this to link to it. When it is clicked, it should go there. Then I'll call this blog. All right, so that when I click here, it takes us to the blog, and I haven't put anything there yet. That is why we are seeing nothing. All right, so if I should click to go to the top and come to blog, it takes me to where I have that, right? So now let's move on to developing our blog. So now I have dot what dot blog dot container, just like we used our container element to style everything. So div class of blog and container, and then in each of this we are going to have, before that, first we are going to have what our title, and we have a class for our titles. We call it what section. Sorry, it should be an h2, and then we can have a class of what section title. Remember that. Then also we have I think we have a section description or something like that. All right, so we had a gallery description over here, and since we are going to be repeating, we are going to be using um, the same thing we have over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from gallery description to what section description, so that I could use it at multiple places. I could still use it there and say gallery description, but then the it's going to defy the semantic meaning. If you say this is gallery and you're using it for blog, it doesn't really make sense. Everything is going to work fine though. So let me just come here and change this to section description. All right. Then I'm going to copy everything from there and then paste here. Then the title, I'll make it read from our blog. Then I'll just bring something and say, okay, we have curated the best stories about the Kakun National Park. for you to have something to smile about. Well, this doesn't make sense, but we are not trying to make sense here per se. Then I could section description, and I believe let me refresh the page. I changed this to section description. I was expecting an interruption in the flow. Let me not look at it for now. Let me come back here, and where I had my gallery, let me look for my gallery. I don't have gallery description. Right, so I'm now going to change it to what? Section description. And since we are using it at more than one place, let me add it to the list of components. So I could just come back where I have my components. Right, so I have section title over here. Then let me paste this over here. Right, then right, so we have this showing here. Then I can, before my footer, let me now bring my blog section over there. Right? I just want everything to be in the order as we have it in our HTML. So I could say blog section. Then I could come here and say blog, sorry, dot blog, and I'll give it a display of flex, and then I justify content. Justify content of center. And one trick in Java and in VS Code is when you are typing a compound property, right? Like Java, justify content, you can just type the first the J, then you begin to type the content, and it's gonna suggest that for you. So align items, I could say A items, and it suggests that for me. So I could just go to center, and let me see if we have this. All right, we have this here. Then I could just say flex direction of column. So we have our block section over here. Great. Then I could now come back here and save dot blocks. Right. Then I could now say article dot single. So I'm trying to use something that will give our pages a semantic meaning, right? So instead of using div, I want us to use an article, right? And then inside our block, we're gonna first of all going to have an image, all right? Image dot what? Blog image. All right, and let me give it just a random image and make it a $4 or something like that. It's not bad. Let me take the alt attribute for now. We don't really need to bring it there for now. Then I'm going to add another div, and then I'll call that blog detail. All right, blog detail. Let me say blog content. Then I would have an h3, then say blog title. Then I could say, um, let's see, this is a sample blog title. All right, let me see what's happening. All right, we have that showing over there. And then I would come to p.blog except. Then I would say Lauren, and then you delete something because that seems to be too much. Then I would come here, then I could say a dot what link. Remember we did our link styling back during the first session. So if you're confused, kindly make time to watch that video. Then I could say read more. All right. And I just want to add as much features so that we could get to experiment with most of the features which we could possibly be using. All right. So let me add a font or some icon and do something over here. And let's see. So I could say arrow, arrow right. Copy. Then I could just come back here. Then I could say I dot I got on, and then we have an arrow right on. Yeah, so we have that. Then I believe okay, we have basically done for our blog section. Then what I'm gonna do is let me see our, our section description. Let me give it some margin bottom so we have some space over here. So where is our section description? I could give it a MB of 50. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, that doesn't look that bad. So let me go back to the very bottom, back to my blog section, and then I'll come back and see. Let me now make this big. Let me have my CSS here for now. Position it like this, like this way. Bring this down. Let me bring this here so I can see what I'm doing. Great. So what we have, let me scroll back to that section. We have our blog section. We have our H2, right? So we have what? The blogs. That is our parent container for all. What I'm trying to achieve is we're gonna have three cards, which is gonna be three of our blogs, blog posts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select that, and there is a wrapper containing them. So I would say the blogs. Then I'll give it a display of. Sorry, before I do that, let me come back. Let me just do this. Let me increase it. So my article got a single blog. Let me make three copies of that. All right, so we have one, two, three, and then let me make this five, and then make this three. All right, so we have different images to work with, so we could see the difference. Great. Um, so I come to blocks, then I'll just give this a display of flex, and then by that you will see all the items aligned side by side. So we have this, and that. Then where was I? Right. So we give the display of flex. Then we could give it a gap of 50 pixels. It's a gap of 50 pixels. Not bad in this scenario. Maybe that may be too much. Let me make it 20. 20 pixels should be right. I think this is okay. And then let me leave that for now. Then come back to a single block, and sorry for our single blocks. That is the current container we have over here, right? So single block, first of all, we have our image, and for that, let me leave this. I may come back to do something to it. Single block dot blog image. That is the class we've assigned right here. Dot blog image, and then I could give it a width of 100%. What are we saying? All right, so we have this thing looking like this for us. And then I could also give it an aspect ratio of 16 over 9. So aspect ratio is not always 1. When you make it 1, it means you want it to be a square, equal height with equal width. But 16 to 9, it means I want everything to look like this. This looks a little too stretched. I could make it a 4 to 3. We are right. I think this looks a lot more better for me. But we have some of our images stretching to be able to meet that demand. So we could now come back and apply our object fit and make it cover. All right. And before I save that, let me hide this. And once I save, you realize that the image is stretched back. Right now, they are proportionally scaled. So we have everything now showing. Even though the images do not have the same aspect ratio, we have used CSS to make them look is great. Then also, one thing you can do to images is give them a border radius. So I could just say border radius of 10 pixels, right? And we could have it look like this, but right, I think this it goes with the flow. We have our buttons are having rounded borders, and so we can actually maintain that. All right, but then let me border radius. Let me say 10 pixels, zero. Let me see if I'm getting. No, no, that's not what I want to do. So I'd say 10 pixels, 10 pixels, zero, zero. Great. So I'm having. Let me make this 15, 15. All right. So this looks a lot better, and I don't want to round the bottom. What I want to do is give a little background to the pairing. Then I'm going to make the pairing to rounded at the bottom. So I'll give this a background color. Let me use a loose blue, and this is how it shows. But then let me make sure I pick something that is an offset, a green offset, because we're dealing with green. So I have that over there, and then I'll come back and say border radius. I could say 0, 0, 15 pixels. Right? And then oh sorry, 15 pixels again. And then we have our border radius. I don't know, it may be a little bit difficult to see. Let me just increase our color, right, so we can actually see our border radius over there. So let me just write 10 pixels, and then we have that. Great. Then you could also realize that this is, you could also realize that these are touching the um, borders too much, right? The edges. And that is why I intentionally wrapped the title, the blog excerpt, and then the read more link in what another container called the div content so that I could give those ones a padding. And I could give that one a padding. I don't want the padding to affect the image. That is basically why I had to give that a different container. So now I could come and say blog content. Then I could say, let me just add the parent fast to it because that's what I started. It doesn't really change anything, but since I started doing it that way, let me just do it so I have some consistency. I could say single blog content, and let me give it a padding of 10 pixels. All right, so we have, let me make it 20 pixels. So we have our content shifting away from the edges of the parent. And then basically, I think we are done with our blog session. Another thing I want to do is let me come back here and see that the blog content a dot link and I. That means when I have a blog content like this, I'm targeting the anchor element. Sorry, I'm targeting the link class and then a child which is an I. I getting it. And what I want to do is when this link is what is hovered, then dot I believe this could be something that I would apply to all our items. So let me not limit it to the blog section. If you have a link anywhere that the link is hovered, then if that link has uh, if the link is hovered, if the that link has an I, then let us say we want to apply some transform and say translate y and say 5 pixels, right? And okay, let me take this off. This is how it's over. All right. No, it should be translate x. Great. So when this is over, they should move a little bit. Then what we could do is go back. Let me take this, add it to our components where we have started our link. I think we did that. Did we start a link? Well, probably not. But let me do this here. Then I could say dot link. Oh, I believe we start the link. Let me just make sure. Great. So I think yeah, this is where we start our link. All right. And then let me just say this is link and give it a transform. Sorry. So let me just do this to all our nav links and say transition of 0.3s. Let me not, sorry, transition all. And that is not happening. That's nowhere. Okay. Okay. So this is supposed to be given to the eye because it's the eye we are applying the style to. So link over eye transition of 0.3s. So yeah. So I think it's now working for us, moving slowly. When it hover over this, it should go. That's another thing which you can do. Let me move this and bring it where the others are, so we can now trace all our links at one side. That is done, and I believe we can now move on to our primary focus for the day, which is making our web page responsive. All right, and so to the very bottom, let me bring a comment, then I can say what responsive. So that is where I'm coming to work on. Then I'm going to say at media screen, and then max width. It's 1200 pixels. All right. Then I could say body. Then I could say background. Right. I just want to make sure that I have declared my media query well because it sometimes confuses me. Great. So I think I've declared my media query well, and basically that's. Let me just take this out. Sometimes when you apply a setting and you're not sure if it is right, you can just add some random style to test if it is really working. Great, great. So back at my container, first of all, let me put focus on my container, and I am saying that where are we container. Great. So let me bring back my border pixel so I can actually see it because I'm coming back to work on it. And we are giving it a width of what 120 pixels maximum, right? And then let me come back and say that when 1280, when we our screen is 1280, then our container, let me just take this off, and I'm gonna put focus on the width, right? So what when we had no media query, our max width, did I give it a max width? I gave it a width directly of what 128 1280, all right. And that max width of 1280, it means that's going to be the fixed, sorry, the width of 1280 is going to be the fixed width, all right? What I could do is give it what? A max width. And when I give it a max width, that means it's going to it's going to squeeze according to the size of the parent, all right? Uh, it's, let me comment this out. And you realize that we have, let me go back and give it some margin. Let me see how that works. Great. So margin, I could say 10 pixels, all right? No, that is top. 0, I could say 10 pixels. So we can see some margin. So we are saying our container, right? So it's going to keep resizing till it reaches that max width of 1280, which we have assigned to it, and it's not going to resize again. I get it. Let me just do this again, and let me make this. Let me take this out of here. So it's going to keep resizing. Let's say we have it here. It's going to keep resizing, right? Till it gets, and keep your eyes on this device responsiveness now at 1215, and it will keep increasing. The moment it gets to 128, when we get, remember, when we get to 128, you realize that the container, it stops what? Increasing. At 128, it stops what? Increasing. It keeps going down. At 128, it stops increasing and stays where it is. The screen itself keeps what? Resizing. And that is what we are doing. So when we come back here, let me go back to my VS Code and say that at this particular screen, when the device the user is accessing the website on is the width or the viewport width is 1280 pixels or less, then what I want to do is let me make this 1200, all right? So that when this is it, the user screen gets here, this should, I always want to have some margin over here, even if the person is on a small laptop, all right? So I could just say this, and then let me close this. When I get here, you realize that this shifts again, all right? And I think I made some error over here when I changed my border, right? My margin, sorry. So let me make it auto so that everything is perfectly aligned for us. And we are seeing some errors because there are some contents over here which it's are getting affected. We'll deal with everything before we close. So let me just take this off and come here, all right? Then I'm gonna add a few media queries, and then I would say that when our screen is at 1200, then this should be 99, let me say 996 pixels, right? So that, and it keeps increasing, it keeps going down. And 996, I think that seems to be too much. We are decreasing it by 200 pixels. Let me make this 1080. So sometimes you play around to get the perfect. And this is not well aligned because, as I did mention, uh, we have contents which are trying to squeeze into the pairing. So until we work around those contents, we're going to be having this error. So for now, let me pick this. In a real world, while you're working, maybe you're done with your header, you work on the responsive things. That is the best practice. So it's an error. The way I went about it, I didn't take a good approach. So in our next project, I'm going to pay attention to that. Then when we are at 1080 pixels, I could say let's do this 996 pixels, and we're gonna have that constant resize, all right? Then we could say that when we get to 996, let's make the 768 pixels, all right? And this is going to become very small in the middle. Let's say from, sorry, at 996. From 996, right? So leaving this here. Then from here, I could say when we are at 768, I could make this 700 pixels, right? For um, what do we call it? Uh, for tablets, that's for 768. So I'm making the width of the 7 so that we could still have some space around it. Then the last one I'm gonna do is when we are on a screen of 640 pixel, sorry, a screen of 640 pixel, then I'll make this 100%. Then before that, I have to give the container some padding so that when we get to the mobile device, it's not going to affect it. And we could take care of that during the mobile section, but I wanted to apply throughout, so I could give a padding of 0. Then left and right, let me say 10 pixels. And 640 is for mobile width, so from there we could say 100%. So max width 100%, and I have to make this max width so that we have a media when we are on a screen size which we haven't taken care of because we did some skip from here to here. So there are some gonna be some screen size which are not gonna be covered, and so let me just use the max width so that it's going to adjust accordingly. Max width and max width, max width, and max width. Yeah, right. Great. And so now we are done with our container. Our container is gonna resize for us. All right. Now let's go back. Put focus on our header. Our header at 1368. I believe our header looks okay. All right. Let me go back. Something seems to be wrong. Um, but this is too close. All right. So let me just see what I did wrong over here. And I believe this particular challenge we are facing right now is because of the approach I used. So here, let me give it a week, not a max week, first week. One, two, eight, zero. Let me work on it regardless. Come back here. Great. So right, so we have everything here showing here for us nicely. Focus is on the header, right? And, everything still looks great. When we get to 768, maybe from this particular screen size, what we want to do is to hide our navigation menu, the nav links, so that we replace it with what a hamburger. The user can click on it, and then the user can click on it, and then the menu is going to show. So back here, let me come back to my CSS, and then before that, in my HTML, I'm going to introduce a new item. Where do I have my header? Right, so inside my nav here, I could bring an I dot, then I could just add a font awesome icon. Let me bring a hamburger. I'm called no, it's called bars. Copy that, and then we have it show over there. Then let me add another class to it and call what menu menu toggle. All right, and let me apply some style to it. Where do we have our header? Yeah. So I could say that menu toggle, then a cursor pointer, right? So that when a cursor is when this is covered, we should have this for us like that. Right. Then we would also give it a display of none, a display of none, so that we don't see it. And then on let me copy this and then come back to our media query, and then from 6.8 we could just say that, let me take this out, we could say display of what block. All right, so that when we go back here we say inspect and then select it. When we get to that side, it's going to show for us. Then also at that particular point, we should hide our navigation bar, right? But before we hide our navigation bar, let me install it how I want it to look on mobile. I didn't put this the right query. 996 supposed to be for 768 right here. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to style my navigation bar. All right, so where is my nav item? Look here. So I could just select that nav items. Let me copy the nav items, not the nav itself. Alright, so I've not even applied the style directly to the nav item. But then let me pick it from here, then say 768. Um, let me take care of this. I want this to give it a position because I want to take it out from the normal workflow, then style it separately. Absolute. Alright, then I could give a nav over here and give this a position of what relative. Now let me give that to the header class because I want to be relative to that as well. That's rather. So position of absolute. Then I'll give it a top of sorry, top of 0, and then left of 0. Then I'll give it a sorry, and I'll give it a width of 100%. And let's see what's happening. Let me give it a background color of white. Let me give it a height of um, top of 50 pixels. Let me see what's happening. Oh no, this is not what I was supposed to start. Uh-huh. Wait, so let me do this. Then with each children, I could give this a display of block because I want them to be one after the other. Let me give this a padding of 20 pixels. Uh, no, nav items. I really messed up. Let me take my time to figure out what I did wrong. Okay, so the problem I'm having here is the nav items which I am styling here. It's also affecting the footer because I was using the same class for the footer, and that is why that's why I was having those errors. So I could just come back here and say um, the header nav items, and I believe our problem should be taken care of. Great. So that's one of the challenges we get to face with you. Don't do your naming properly. Great. So now I think everything is working as it's supposed to be. Then I'll go to text align of center, so I could have everything aligned. And I could with these ones I could say I'm giving a margin bottom for each of them, a margin bottom of let me not give them a text align of this should be relative to the page. Then let me give it a top of 70 pixels because I think that was what we assigned to the header. 100 pixels. Great, we gave the header 100 pixels, so they should be just right under the header. And let's make it center. I think with the button, the center is going to make it look a lot better. Then let me give this a margin bottom of 20 pixels each. This looks great. So for the nav items, I could give it a height of 100 view height, 100 viewport height. Then I believe I think great. So we have our header, our nav bar, how it's going to look on mobile for us. It looks this great. Okay, okay. So what we are actually going to do is give it a display of none because we don't want it to show. Right? It should only show when this is clicked. And so I could come back here and say dot open display block, right? So that when I come back here and I say, sorry, I add a class of open, we should now have it to work, show price. So what we are going to do is we're going to use JavaScript to say that when this is clicked, then that class of open should work, should be added to our nav item, and that's going to help us to toggle it on and off. We'll do that with JavaScript right in a moment. Now I want us to focus on the CSS, and so let me now remove the open. And then we don't have it showing over there for us. So I think we're done with one. We are done with our header. Let's see how it looks on mobile. Everything is great. So now let's put focus on our hero section. So back here, our hero section. Let me squeeze and see what's happening. And let me go back to my nav items, my knife, my nav items, nav link. And I think I gave them nav link. All right. So let me select the nav link alone and give it a margin of 0 10 pixels, so that these items can have some space between them. Then right now our focus is on the hero. So as we keep going, it looks great. It looks great. It looks great. It looks great. All right. So over here now, I think it's too big for our screen, and we could have used the clamp to actually take care of this. But then, we've let me just use the media queries to reduce the size. So for the hero title, where is my hero title? Hero title. I'm gonna copy it, then go back to. We are now on 696, right? So let me go to 768. Then I'm going to do this to 768. I don't want to take off the font weight, but I'll make this 3 rem so it becomes a lot more smaller. Great. And when we get enter into the mobile, we realize that let me connect my mobile and I should display directly on the mobile. But what we are seeing over here is that this is going to the very, very top. So what we can do is we could select the hero itself, and then we say when we are on mobile, let's add some more padding. So hero, and our mobile is from 640. All right, so I'm gonna take everything because I'm not changing anything. The only thing I'm changing is padding. So I'll say padding and padding top to be specific. So I could say padding and let me give it 50 pixels. And let me wait. I think I gave some height. Somebody raised their hand. Mobile on screen. I was using. Is it? I forgot the name. AirDroid. It's called AirDroid Cast. I haven't given the hero. Yeah, Jiman, kindly speak.
Can you forgive me? I'm currently at a very noisy place. But say, with the extension, can we get some for the Android users? The extension for the mobile app.
Yeah, it's an Android app. I'm using Android.
Okay. If you can, we can provide the name or the
It's called AirDroid.
advertisement. AirDroid.
AirDroid, yeah.
It's a Chrome extension, right?
No, it's an Android app, and then they have a desktop version which you're gonna use it.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let me figure out what I did wrong and what's actually happening. I haven't declared a height over here. Great. So I've given a height. I've done some calculations for the height, and that is what's making our item get out of it. So that height is still affecting. So I have to modify the height as well. Where am I? So this. So I could give the height an auto at this particular point, so that when I give it a padding top of 50 pixels, I think, yeah, right. So now this looks good for us. But then I realized that there's too much space in my title over here, so I could just come back and then where is my hero title? I could just pick up my hero title, and when I'm on mobile, I could just say that okay, I want to change the line height to 1 rem. That is too much. 2 rem. So 2.5 should do the trick. Let me see 1 em. All right, 1 em does it for us. I think that is okay. Let me see padding is going to be 50px 0 over here. I want to make this 20 pixels because it's now overriding this. All right, so we have our hero now. Uh, Hero up to this point, everything is responsive. So now let's put some focus on the about section. So we'll run scroll down. So one typical mistake you're supposed to avoid is having to develop your whole page and then coming back to work on the media queries, because by then you may have forgotten some of the properties you have declared, and it's going to pose challenges like we are facing these challenges right now. So what the right thing to do is when you're done with a section, maybe you're done with a header, work on it. You're done with the hero, you work on it. You're done with the about, you work on it. That way, it's going to be easier for you to avoid the problems we are facing right now. I didn't intend to uh, cause this, but I think it's a good thing because it now gets us to see the problems that we can face when we don't do them the right way. We are on our about section, and we'll go back and pick. Let me see. Take this down, and this looks great. Looks good here still. And at this point, our image is looking too small. At this point, our image is looking too small. It's not supposed to look that small. So first of all, let me bring down my title a little bit. And I think that's the section title. So when I come back, where is my section title? Section title. Let me pick up section description as well. And I'm on screen size 992. Let me go back to, I think we have, in our media query, we have 996. Right, so 996, I want to change, I don't want this, I don't want this. I want to make this 2.5 RAM, which is not bad. Then I want to make this font size 1 RAM, 0.9, 0.825. Alright, this Okay, this is not the section description. Let me go back. I think this is too small. I was targeting something different. Right, okay, so that is okay now. Let me take this off because we don't need these properties for now. And all right, so I've got this here. This looks good. But at this point, I could just say I want to make this full width. This is also going to be full width, right? So back where I have my about, uh, so I could now select that about. Let me see whatever styling I have applied to it already. All right, so let me pick everything the about, so I don't happen to be coming back up and down again. I was here, and I've given a display of flex, line items of center. Yep, I'm not gonna touch the cap, touch the display, but I'm going to make it. Alright, so let me not even touch. Let me give it a flex direction of row reverse, because I now want this to come to the very top and then this comes to the bottom. Then also I would make this a width of 100%. And let me comment. Let me take out the object width. So we have this showing. We have our text. What what just happened? Row reverse. Wow. This is here. Alright, so if this is 100%, okay, so this is 100%, then this should be width of 100%. I'm doing something really dirty over here. This is, wow. Yeah, I've made something up. Let me not change the row direction. Let me see. This is 100%. Oh, sorry. This should be column reverse because I want this to stack on top of each other. So this goes to the upgrade. Then I could now take this because this is automatically gonna take up the whole available space. And then let me take this off. This off. I don't even need to change anything here for now. Let me just comment it out. All right, then. Oops. All right, so I'm taking this out. Then I'm having my aspect ratio. This is not supposed to be one. Let me make it a 16:9 over here. Oh, 16:9. so I could have this look a lot shorter. And let me go down and see. Then when I get to mobile, I could just make it a square again because I think it'll look a lot better on mobile. So I could make it an aspect ratio of 1, take out the width in this instance, so I could have, great, so I have this. So let me take this off, I wouldn't need them again. Now section description, they are, I may have to use them. Then, all right, so back to image gallery. Let me see how that gets affected. Section title. It's supposed to still be in the center. All right, so it's in the center now. Then description, everything looks great. But then on, when we get to tablet size, let me take this to iPad mini, around 768. We have four images which are looking that small. So what I could do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just make them two on. Let me take this off for now. So I want this to now be what do you call it? Two on a row. On each row we should have two instead of four. So let me go back to my gallery, and now let me grab everything. Okay, I'm not gonna touch this. I'm not going to. Let me touch the gallery items. Then I'll come back to line 768. Yeah, 768. And inside 768, I'm gonna leave the display to grid. Then one FR, I'll just take two and make it one FR, one FR. Maintain the gap of 20 pixels, so I'll take it off and not change anything. So it looks like this over here. Then the same thing when we get to be on mobile, I'll just make it one FR. So this is what we have. Then when it gets on mobile, it's gonna look this for us. Right. So I want to just uh, get this to show on mine. All right, then let me just try and bring my mobile screen so we see what is how it's actually looking on the mobile so far. I'm gonna wait for that to run. And now the next thing we may forget about is the modal, right? So when you click on it, okay, so I think our modal looks great across devices, even on mobile. Let me just check it on my mobile and see. Right, so it doesn't look bad on mobile phone. So we are not gonna touch it for now. We can use JavaScript to actually stop the scroll when the modal um, is active. So let me take this out of the way for now and practice. All right, so next thing we're gonna focus on is the what do you call it? The contact section. So the contact section doesn't look that great over here. So this is how it looks on the phone, which is it's not bad. So I'm just going to close it, and then when we need to test it on the phone real time, we'll get back to look at it. So now let's go back to the full width again, and then work on our section. Alright, so we our section has a width of 100%. The contact section. Let me go back to the contact section, look at whatever styles I've applied, and see how I'm gonna override them over here. First of all, let me copy everything up to here. Come back and look at where we start having the problem. Alright, so I think from 768. Alright, so let me do the first thing around 768. Then the contact form, I give them a width of 35%. Here I'm going to give them a width of 70% so that they can become a little bigger. I think this is okay. So the gap, flex, and everything, I'll take them off because I don't need them here. Then I believe everything else looks cool. Let me go down. And then when we get to, so let me just take care of everything. That's the only thing that needs to be modified. Now I have to bring everything because I can't remember all the styles I've applied. So I brought everything in case I need to change it. I don't need to scroll up again. Back here, I could just say 100%. So I only get onto mobile. And then another problem you're facing is I have given some padding. Oh, I deleted everything. So let me just go back. I remembered I gave some padding to um, the contact, right? So a padding of 100%, so 100 pixels. So when we are on mobile, or let's say from the tablet view 768, I have to um, change that. Let me make it 50 pixels. All right, so changing the width of this should actually happen earlier, I think. Yeah, right. So this looks great. Then focus on the padding should now come from the yard. So I'm now going to change on my here. I can now change the padding to 50 pixels. when we are on mobile, let me change the padding to 10 pixels on mobile. Let me see how that's looking on my phone. Let me just make that 20. So this is how it looks from the phone. And we are having some shifts over here. We'll try and figure that out. Alright. Now the next thing we have supposed to take a look at is the we're done with gallery, we're done with blog. No, right. So the next thing we're gonna look at is the blog section. Alright, so let me go back again. And then great. So our blog looks good over here at this point. Still doesn't look bad. Let's see if I did something with my container because it's not being centered. This should be auto. Great, so I can have my container centered. I was wondering all along what was the error. Uh, Somebody had a hand raised. I thought somebody raised their hand. So right, so I think around this print size, this is not looking great. This is not looking too great. So we could actually change it to 2 and back to the bottom. Let me pick my blog. Alright, so I think it's the single blog. Let me go to blogs and copy everything from here. And then we're at 940, so I can count to 996. And then here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it what a flex wrap of what wrap, and then here it's gonna break. Alright, a flex wrap of wrap. Then single block, I'll give each a width of I think before that I took some. Alright, so I have the gap here, so let me keep the gap out, need it. So flex wrap of wrap. Alright, so that it can wrap. Then what I'm gonna do next is give it a single block. I'm gonna give them a width of 50%, and this is how it's gonna look. And the second one is supposed to follow up on it, but it's not following. Let's see how it looks on mobile too. This is how it's looking on a mobile as well. It's not following because the space left after this takes a 50%. The space left is not 50% anymore because we have given a gap of 20 pixels. So the space left is 50% minus 20 pixels, and that is what is causing the problem. So we could now say like we could say we give it a calc of what 50% minus 10 pixels, and that means that all of them are going to have 10 pixels less. Then that's going to make up for the gap of 20 pixels, which everything works well for us over here, and I think this is great. And then I don't know if you might have noticed, but we did a similar thing when we were doing with the gallery. But the gallery we used the grid display, and it was simple when modifying it. So in most cases, you'd want to go with the display of grid and just change the one FR, one FR. Grid box, a whole topic which we haven't covered. I did mention that I'll make a video later on. But with what we are using, the simple way, 1FR, 1FR, it would have saved us if we did use Gridbox in this particular scenario. Uh, for each of these items, let me comment these out, copy them. So this, I'm going to delete this because it's working. And then when we get down to our mobile, let me now copy all this. And when you're around 168, I think it's still valid for that site. Then when we come to our mobile, for a single block, we want to give it a width of 100%. So we want to give it a width of 100% for 614. When we look at it, we realize that it looks great on mobile as well. I think that's all we're going to be doing for that side. We can take all of this out because we don't need it. We don't need to change anything. So we're done with our blog section as well. Then the last item we're going to be looking at is the footer. And my footer doesn't look bad on mobile. Let me see if it looks bad on other screen sizes. If not, we're gonna leave it. So it's just about trying different screen sizes and seeing which works. If a particular item doesn't look good on a particular screen size, then you modify it. So this also doesn't have gap over here. Then it also changes, which I think this is okay. And so basically, we have made our website responsive. If I did things the right way, we would have spent much less time making it responsive. But because we didn't use the right practices, we had to go through all of those stress. Now I admit it's my fault. And in our next sessions, I'm going to go everything step by step so that we don't have to run into problems like this. Let me now go back. Let me go back. I think I did something. And footer, there's no space between the nav items over here. So let me just fix that real quick. The nav link margin of 0. I don't know 5. Okay, so nav link, then I'll say footer. Sorry, so the footer nav link. And right, so that is also working for it as well. I could just say TA center so that everything is it's centered. And basically, we are done making our website responsive. We spent an hour and a half, which is ridiculous. It's way too much to do something like this, but we were having challenges and so. And that's basically how it is with web development. There are times you can get at it real quick. Sometimes it will take a lot of time. I did mention that we're gonna now work on our mobile menu because when you click on it, the mobile menu is supposed to drop, right? So let's go back to our JavaScript and then let's add a few styles, right? Sorry, I say let's add some script. So back at the top, we gave this a menu toggle, right? And so a menu toggle, let me say, let me say let mobile, or let's say menu button to be document, sorry, document dot query selector. Great. So when this, sorry, when this is clicked, then we are going to add a function. And what we are going to do is what? we are going to add, remember what we did over here. We add what an open class. Let me go back to the main. Sorry, the style.css. Nav.open. Where did I do that? I think it's inside our media query. Right, so when we have nav items.open, then the display is going to be what? The block. I getting it. And so we have to make sure we use JavaScript to add this class. And you may not understand what is going to happen right now, but then I'll do it when you join the master class. That's when we'll be doing JavaScript, and so you understand that a lot better. So we can now say that we first of all have to look for what do we call it? This nav items, right? And I think we have two nav items over here. All right, so so let's nav menu equals let me just bring this and say nav items, and let me go back to my console and see if I'm getting any errors. All right, the nav menu dot class list dot add open, right? So when we click on this, oh sorry, right? So now when we click on it, the class is added. Let me wanted to use this and come back here. We take off those issues later. Elements. All right. So what do we have our nav item inside our header? Here, here. All right. So you realize that we have what? We have our nav item showing here. So when I click here, you realize that the open class has now been added, and then now it shows, right? But then what we want to do is that when we click on it again, it should hide. I get it. So instead of adding the class, it will do what? Toggle. And toggle means if it is there, take it out. If it is out, if it is not there, then bring it. And so I can now click on it for it to show, click for it to go, click for it to show, and now we have our mobile menu working perfectly just as we would want. Let me see what happens on my mobile phone as well. Let me go to the top and click, and it works for us, and it goes away, and it works, and it goes away. And another thing which we want to do is when we click on it, this should change to what? A cross or an X sign. And then when we click on it again, it should change to the hamburger, right? So let me go back here and let me pick a font or some icon. And then let's look for X, right? Files for X. So I've copied that. Then I'm going to say that menu toggle. Let me put this here because I'll be needing it. When this is clicked, we should change it to what? We should the menu button dot class list dot remove. We are going to let me. I'm gonna explain what I'm doing here right now. You know that with the font awesome, what we are actually doing is let me put this here and go back to the font and it's showing as what? It's showing X, right? Oh, this is how it's showing. So if you want to have an X, we use this. The fast far X means far font or some solid. S here means solid, and then far X is that particular icon we are looking for. We need this, right? So what we want to do with JavaScript is that when this is clicked, we'll remove this FAX, and then we'll add what? Sorry, it was initially bars. So we'll remove this bars from the class list, and then we'll add this. All right. So let's go back again and see what's gonna happen. Let me refresh my page. Let me save this. Great. So it's showing the hamburger. When I click on it and I have an error, no, should just be this. So when I click on it, you realize that it changes to an X. But then this is also not going back because it has to change back to hamburger, right? So what we can do is we could use I could now create a function. Let me just say a function. Or let me not go that deep into a function. Let me just use a condition. So let me say if menu button dot class list dot contains this. If it contains this, then it means what then we should remove this, right? And then add this. Else, if it doesn't contain it, if it doesn't contain bars, then it means it contains s. So what we are gonna do is now just do the reverse. Now add bars, then remove this. All right. So now let me do this. We're having a problem again. I know this should it's supposed to be a string. It's supposed to be a string. So this is what I was supposed to do. No spaces, no spaces. Great. Oh, what's not working? We are toggling the open that was so if menu button dot classlet dot contains fa bars s. So if you make those little mistakes, you could go about looking for the particular error and you can't find it. So now we have everything working nicely for us. Let me see what if that works. Great. So it works perfectly fine on my mobile as well. So basically, that's how you go about making the device, the web page responsive. And if anybody has a question, kindly draw my attention to it. Else, we've spent way too much time that we are supposed to, so we'll bring the class to a close. If there are no questions, yeah, somebody has a question. Yeah,
So please, you said you'd say something about how to actually plan projects before
great,
you
great,
initiate.
great. Before I go on that, I want to know if there is any question concerning what we just did. And if no one's got a question, then yeah.
So when you were building the website, you gave it a component
You said I
for
gave,
the container component.
yeah,
I wanted to ask the width you gave it. You gave it 1280 pixels
yeah.
for the and I want to ask if it can be much larger than that
Yes,
or
you can,
1280
it
pixels
can
only.
be, you said much larger, like,
It can be bigger than 200 and 1280 pixels.
yes, we have standard screen sizes, all right. So we have the 1280, which is usually the normal laptop sizes. Then we have 1440 for larger desktops. Are you getting it? Let me see. Bootstrap, Bootstrap, screen size media queries. Right. So Bootstrap is a CSS library, and they have some media. They have some breakpoints which they usually use. And so, if you instead of having to adjust everything by what I was doing earlier, you could look at this and then go with it. Right. I had to use resizing the viewport width for you to understand what we are actually targeting. Then when you understand that, you can just keep. Let me see. I'm not getting it here. Breakpoint. So let me get it from the Bootstrap themselves, and then let me try Tailwind as well. Tailwind is also another CSS library. All right, so they have a list. All right, so what they have here is for extra small, that is mobile and below. We have the 576 pixels. Then they have the small, which is greater or equal to this. So this or more. Then we have the medium, which is the tablet for this or more. Then we have the small laptops, which is this or more. That is the mean width. All right. Then we have extra large, which is the 1200. All right. So we could use 1200 or 1280, and then the extra large, which is the 1400 pixels, which is extra large for let's say you have a wide monitor, a wide screen monitor. So you could use this for media queries instead. You could use the 576. I'm gonna copy. I think when we did media queries, I did give these breakpoints in the YouTube video, so kindly check them out. Right, so we have this, and this they are using a technique called mobile first. So the mobile first, they have the mean width. All right, so you design for mobile and then you adjust it to the desktop. What we did, it was desktop first, so we designed for desktop and then we adjust it to downwards to fit the mobile. And most people would recommend you go with mobile because currently, when it comes to web development, the high um, the devices that have the highest traffic is the mobile phone because most people use mobile phones to access websites more than desktop. Everybody is on the move, and so when you are designing, the focus is that it is that you put more focus on the mobile, but that is not in all cases because there are some instances where you put more focus on the desktop, and then also it's also boils down to a matter of preference, and I prefer working with desktop. It's much easier for me to work with desktop and scale it down than to work on mobile and scale it up. All right, so when you get into it, you pick up your preference and then you go with it. So when you want to do mobile first, you go with the mean width. When you want to do desktop first, you go with the max width, as we did. So this is Bootstrap's breakpoints. I'm going to copy the link and put it in the description. I don't know if anybody has a question. Michael, you also had your hand up earlier. Mike. All right, then I believe we'll bring the class to an end. But before I stop the recording, let me talk about this because those that are watching on YouTube would also need to know this. And it's about what is it? What were we talking about?
As I was saying before, somebody tries to embark on a big project
Great.
and the
So
plans on how to
just like you have a building, anytime you're coming to build, you don't wake up and put a building, right? You get a place where you're gonna have challenges and things are not gonna fall right. The best is you plan. So you have your content, you have what you're gonna do, you plan. So this is the homepage, and these are what I'm gonna be putting on my homepage. You plan everything, then you start building. How you getting it? So you plan for if you're gonna build just one page, you plan for it. If it's gonna be multi pages, you plan for all the pages. You have your content ready waiting for you so that you can build it. Sometimes you can go with the placeholders and then fill up later. But in general, you make a plan. You make a plan about okay, I'm gonna do this and that and that, and before you move. You don't do like we're doing. We start dropping, and you realize I get to a session, then I begin to think, okay, what should I add? What should I add? You usually don't do it that way. You plan what you're gonna do, and then when once you start, you have everything flowing for you. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Sir,
Yeah.
how long should it take a developer to plan
How long should
for,
it take to develop a website?
yeah, no, a developer to plan
A
the
developer to
website
do
he wants
well,
to develop?
it depends on a few things. One, your experience matters. If you're new, you may take a whole lot of time to be able to get what you are actually looking for. That is, if you have um, an end vision in mind, if there's something you're particularly looking at, for you to be able to pull that off, it may take some time. But the more you have, the more experience you have, you know most of the stages. Some things are like a one size fits all. So definitely this is going to be there, this is going to be there, and so you quickly go about those things. But in general, it's not. You can sit for a day and plan for a website. Are you getting it? But getting your content and everything together may take some days. It may take you 1 week to be able to figure out everything, and it depends. The thing is, it all boils down to you making the right decision and going at it. But then you should also try to add speed to um, your workings. Are you okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Yes, next question.
Okay, so please with the gallery container, can we decide to use Flex to
Yes, you
like
can decide to
add?
do flex as well.
All right.
You can decide to use flex just as we use flex for the what do you call it, the blog session. And that was actually my intention, to use a different method so that you could see how we could possibly use another way to another technique to achieve the same effect. But for me, mostly for things that are usually appear to be in grids like this, I usually would want to go with Gridbox. And when we get to learn Gridbox and we master it, it's a lot of fun because you can actually create responsive website without using media queries. You could use Gridbox, and it's a whole lot of complicated but yet resourceful um, uh, feature that CSS has got recently,
Okay. Because I tried doing that and I did it with Flexbox, but then
and it's okay.
it didn't appear as like what you've done, but then it's kind of like responsive though, because I
Yeah,
used it.
with the when you have the Flex wrap, so you can have with Flexbox, so you can make it responsive without using media queries like the Flex basis. You could combine
Yeah.
the Flex basis and then the Flex wrap, and then when that size is there, it's just going to um, move the elements are going to move to the next row for you, but it may not be as effective as you would have what you call it, as you would have Gridbox do it for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, then anybody else having a question? I don't want us to get into 2 hours. All right, so say thank you all for taking your time to join.